arrieros.
A esta nueva temporada de Ardillando, temporada 27. Yo soy Isa González.
Yo soy Sofía Torres.
Y aquí andamos juntos en the Hispanic Mental Health Conference 2024, hosted by the Cantenta Foundation.
Ok, vamos a ver.
So I'm Dr. Letty Cavazos, and I'm the founder of two organizations, actually, Canenta Center for Healing and Empowerment and Canenta Foundation. And so Canenta Center was our for-profit initiative to provide mental health services to the Hispanic community. And we started that program kind of like as a group practice to serve the community, because we saw in North Texas there was a huge gap of bilingual services. And so we wanted to provide mental health services that included language and culture into the practice. So Canenta Foundation is a nonprofit organization that provides low-cost to free mental health services to the community. I think like everybody else in 2020, we had a lot of time to kind of sit back and reflect. I had to think about what is it that I can do to give back to the community that's for me, like that I can build and make an impact. And so looking at where we're at, I landed on this is what is needed here, and this is what I can do to give back to the community. That's my initiative. And so that's how it kind of started.
What are some of the key goals of the Hispanic Mental Health Conference this year, and how have these goals evolved since starting?
Right, so this is our second conference that we're having. And initially we wanted to find a way to bring Hispanic serving professionals together, and so that we can come together and have the conversation of how do we best serve our community. And it's really evolved into this great space of collaboration and connections. And I like to describe the conference as this huge reunion of people who have never met each other before. And we get into that space and everybody is like excited to be there and excited to engage on the services that everybody provides. And what I see is it's a space where all of us who not just serve the community but also community members come together, and we join forces, and together we're stronger, and we can elevate the community so much more together than we can individually.
What are some of the most pressing mental health issues facing Hispanic communities today that you've noticed, and how do you hope the conference will contribute to addressing these issues?
I think that one of the things that we don't talk about enough that is starting to get more recognition is how much trauma happens when we have to move to a new country. Whether it's us, our parents, or our grandparents, there was a lot of trauma coming to an area when we didn't have a support system. You're having to acculturate, you're having to learn a new language. And whatever that trauma did to you or to your grandparents or your parents, it's passed down without even knowing to generation. And so we end up doing things that were survival for whoever crossed over, right? And I think people think, oh, I'm third generation, I'm fourth generation, I don't have to worry about that. But it has been passed down, and so there's a lot of healing to be done in the space that you were removed from your community, from your culture, and placed into a new one, and having to learn how to integrate the two cultures together, how to integrate the two languages together. And then the other part of that is people like me who had parents that were like, I don't want you to learn Spanish because I don't want you to be discriminated against. I don't want people making fun of your accent. And there's a whole generation of individuals who are Hispanic but don't speak Spanish. And there's a lot of stigma and trauma to that. And it was well-intentioned by our parents because we didn't want them to go through the same thing that our kids to go through the same things that we went through. But as a result, now we have this community of people saying, where do I belong? if I can't speak to people in Spanish but aren't Hispanic, then who am I? And so there's all different facets of trauma that we've experienced that we have to address.
Can we reach you, or can we get more information on the foundation and more on the conference?
Yeah, so a lot of that information is on our website, so canentafoundation.org. You can find all the information on how to reach us individually, how to get involved with the community through the conference. We have a summit every year also that's kind of a more intimate setting, but we bring everybody together here also. And then again, we're all over the community doing workshops, and so you can find that information there also.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bienvenido, yo soy Isaac y aquí estoy acompañado con...
Rachel Vigil.
Hola Rachel, ¿qué piensas que sea uno de los problemas más así complicados sobre la salud mental de los hispanos aquí en Estados Unidos?
Creo que número uno, no es algo que es normalizado en nuestra comunidad, entonces muchos de nosotros somos los primeros en ir a terapia. Creo que el otro problema es el acceso a terapia. A veces por razones financieras es difícil poder pagar un terapista, y lo tercero también es a veces encontrar terapistas que hablan nuestro idioma para poder entendernos también. Por ejemplo, el ser hija de padres inmigrantes, ese es un trauma que nosotros tenemos. Entonces yo siento que es muy importante como encontrar un terapista que entiende lo que nosotros hemos pasado también.
Y luego,
Conociendo las dificultades de ser un hispano que no es hablado de salud mental, ¿cuál crees que es el impacto de conferencias así que enfocan a la salud mental, las finanzas y esos tipos de cosas?
Bueno, para mí la salud mental es algo muy importante, ¿verdad? Para mí yo siento que salud mental nos afecta físicamente también, afecta la manera que nos relacionamos con nuestros familiares, con nuestras amistades. Entonces, tener eventos así, donde uno, número uno, se puede identificar con los demás, todos somos latinos, hablamos a veces el idioma, nos podemos como conectar un poco más. Es muy importante porque nos vemos representados, pero también vemos que podemos empezar a normalizar lo que es la salud mental en medio de los latinos. Podemos encontrar recursos para salud mental gratis o a precio accesible. Podemos conectar con terapistas que sentimos que nos entienden, y simplemente el poder crear comunidad entre nosotros creo que es algo muy importante.
She is a passionate public speaker, raising awareness about the wealth divide and offering actionable steps towards creating meaningful change. So, without further ado, a big welcome to Linda Garcia.
So today we're here with Linda Garcia. She is an author, advocate for the Hispanic community in finances and in mental health, and we're here to ask her a few questions today. So Linda, I would love to just know a little bit more about your journey and how you decided to come here today just to kind of be an advocate for mental health today.
Absolutely. So I'm going to share a little bit about my journey. It's very nuanced, but I think it's also really important. I stopped living with my parents when I was 12 years old. I became a mother at 14 years old. And I finished high school. I went to business school where I went to study marketing and business, international business. And then I was on air talent here in Dallas for many years. And then I started writing, producing, and directing local television commercials. And through that process, my belief in myself began to expand. And I decided that I wanted to go after film. So I did. I moved to California. I worked for Lionsgate, who at the time opened the first major Hollywood Latino movie studio. I then went on to work for Netflix. And it was at Netflix where I really got into finance because Netflix had so much capital. So I started to understand liquidity and people investing into technology. And then through that process, I decided that I was going to start investing and learn more about the stock market. This was back in 2013. And then I just explored that journey. I became a published author for a book called Wealth Warrior, 8 Steps for Communities of Color to Conquer the Stock Market. And I began to educate on economics for from the perspective of a marginalized community member and for marginalized communities. And then I decided to run for public office, where I'm running for Texas State Representative, and I'm unopposed, so I will be sworn in 2025. So it's been this vast, layered journey that I think is important to talk about, because you never know where someone comes from, and you never know how far they're going to get. And I think a lot of the times we underestimate or generalize folks. So I am here today because I am excited to talk about finances from the perspective of mental health. We hardly ever talk about a scarcity mindset or the importance of having a positive relationship with money, especially as marginalized community members, and we're trying to build generational wealth and grow assets. We don't necessarily have access to resources that tap into this from our perspective.
Yeah, that's amazing. It did make me wonder. You said you were an author for the book of just talking about like the scarcity mindset. How would you say that you hope to shift the mindset of people who read the book or in the community of like Hispanics, that parents and like finances aren't really a thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my intention is to identify that we even have a scarcity mindset and that we have limited beliefs pertaining to money. I think identifying that and being knowledgeable on it is such a huge step. I always say, like, we can take in as much financial literacy as we want, but if we're not addressing our personal relationship with money and how we feel about money, how we feel about wealth, how we feel about rich people, how we feel about people with less resources, then we're really never going to be able to grasp our personal journey with money and how to acquire more. I think it's important for marginalized community members to begin garnering more assets, because we have so many social issues that are affecting us. But at the core of every single social issue is an economic issue. And so if we're not tackling the idea of generating more money and how to advocate for ourselves, then we're never going to change the social issues that are affecting us.
Okay. Yeah, I completely get that. Is there any...
How do you think that family and community support affects one person's like wealth and ability to make more wealth?
Yeah, I love this question. So a lot of the times, actually, there was a study that was done. It's called the Cherry Blossom Study. And in the Cherry Blossom Study, there are mouse pups that were sprayed with the cherry blossom spray, and then the mouse pups were electrocuted. And then those mouse pups grew up. They had their own mouse pups, and the scientists sprayed their children with the cherry blossom spray but didn't electrocute them. And what they found is that the mouse pups would have a visceral reaction to the cherry blossom spray, and although they had never been electrocuted, they acted as if they were being electrocuted. They did this to the third generation of mouse pups. So what that taught us is that our experience, our ancestral experience, do in fact change our DNA, and we are impacted from traumas that our ancestors went through. And so as you're working to change your narrative and change your money mindset, you have to understand that your parents may not be in the same frequency or have the same goals that you may have. Your closest friends, your cousins, your neighbors, your entire space is potentially not equipped to want to make this change alongside you. And that you have to move in the knowing that that's okay. That's okay, and that you might face judgment, you might face criticism for wanting to step out and obtain something that's different from what you have already acquired, and that's going to be almost like a type of battle, because you're not only fighting against your own DNA in terms of trying to change your mindset, but you're also going against what your societal norm is. So I love this question because it is something that is going to be pushed up against you as you're trying to change. But at the end of it, it is always worth it. And I truly believe that once you start to change, your immediate members in your community will start to see that. And as you're changing by default, by osmosis, you will be shifting their mindset as well. I was in such deep scarcity mindset that I always wanted to give everything away for free. And I realized that that would never benefit me. I was continuously finding myself in struggle mode, and then I started to understand my personal value. So what happens is that if my mind is continuously focused on scarcity mindset, then scarcity mindset is what I am going to continue to create. So the reticular activating system is filtering information, and if I am saying, I can't pay this bill, I can't pay this bill, I can't pay this bill, over and over, and I'm worried about me not being able to pay the bill, my brain has identified 1,000,000 ways that I can pay that bill. But my reticular activating system says, no, Linda's not interested in how she can pay the bill. Linda says she can't pay the bill, so we have to filter situations where she can't pay the bill.
Bueno, Ardilleros, hemos llegado al final de este episodio, pero queríamos compartir nuestras partes favoritas. Una de mis partes favoritas podría decir que fue aprendiendo sobre las mujeres revolucionarias que hacen mucho impacto en la salud mental y financiera de nuestra comunidad. ¿Cuál es tu parte favorita?
Mi parte favorita también fue aprender más sobre la salud mental de nosotros, especialmente de los hispanos, y sobre las traumas que nos siguen y cómo nos impacta nuestras finanzas. Sí, pero eso fue todo para hoy. Hasta luego, ardilleros. Adiós.